Hey guys, Brian from Brian Boas here. If there's one type of locality boa that's been my bread and butter, that I've had more success at and produced more of than any other locality boa, or any boa for that matter, of course, it's the Suriname red tail like this one. So I've been really fortunate to put together a really world-class group of breeding animals from several different bloodlines. I've honed them over a couple generations, and I really am proud of the boas that I'm producing today. For today's video, I thought I would just show you some of my holdbacks that I've held back over the last few years, just so that you can see what's coming down the pipeline in the next few years of my breeding trials, as well as you can get an idea about the growth rate of these animals, which do grow quite slowly. And I thought I'd start with a 2020 holdback. This is a female who is now a little over 3 years old, close to 3.5 years old. You can see she's still not a huge boa. I'd say she's about 3.5 feet or so. So still quite a ways away from breeding trials. The females in some cases will take 6 or even 7 years I've had to reach the breeding size. But this female is doing quite nicely. And this is from my Picasso bloodline, as I call it. And just a really nice high quality female, a lot of nice pink and purple coloration, some nice peaky saddles and nice long red tail. Doing quite well, but it'll probably be until, I would say, 2026 at the very earliest, until this animal is ready to breed. And at this point, the animals start to show the muscularity and kind of a more loaf of bread type shape, kind of more of a flattened body. If you look, you can see this line down their side, which shows you the muscle definition, but they will get more and more muscular as they grow and develop. And this female's doing real well. This bloodline tends to grow a little bit slower than my other bloodline, and it is just what it is, and she's just a good size for a 3-year-old animal. Here's another 2020 Suriname holdback. This is a litter mate to the female I just showed you. This is actually a male. And this guy is actually a little bit smaller than his sister, and for his first year or so, he just grew really slowly. I've had some Surinames that, for the first year, they maybe put on, 3 or 4 inches. They don't look all that much bigger than the baby ones. And sometimes people will get a Suriname from me, and they're a little surprised at how small it is. But that's just how they are. So this guy grew kind of slowly his first year. In the last couple years, he's grown a little bit faster. They're now up to eating medium-sized rats. That's the smaller medium, since the sizes have shrank quite a bit in the last few years, but medium-sized rats. And this guy, I would say, is still a couple years away from breeding trials like his sister, but doing quite well. And I'll just stick him back now because he's getting a little frisky. Next, a 2021 holdback. This is an animal that I call Pink Floyd because he's got quite a bit of pink coloration. He is from my Prometheus bloodline. And as you can see, even though he's a year younger than the male I just showed you, he's basically the same size. Some animals just grow faster. Some bloodlines tend to grow faster. They're all individual. So you don't need to panic if your boa is growing slower or faster than someone else's boa, provided it's in good body shape, it's not overweight or underweight. And my Peruvian boas in general grow a lot faster. I've got Peruvian boas the same age that are probably twice as heavy and at least a foot longer than my Surinames. So this guy's doing real well. Beautiful pink coloration. This guy was a standout from the litter, and I knew I had to hold him back. And hopefully he'll be ready to pair up in a few years and pass on those beautiful pink genes to the next generation of boas. Here's another 2021 holdback. You can see this one is quite a bit smaller than the male I just showed you. This is a female from my Picasso bloodline. And part of the reason I kept this one is she just has such a beautiful pattern and such crisp markings and beautiful colors. And in fact, this female reminds me a lot of the animals from Bob Fudo's bloodline. You've probably seen the Fudo bloodline Surinames out there. And I should mention that the Picasso bloodline does have quite a bit of contribution from the Fudo bloodline. Every bloodline is made up of other bloodlines. And when I started the project, the male who bred with the female was Fudo-Eckert cross. So the offspring were, at least 25% Fudo, because the adult was 50%, and this is the next generation. So even though the individual contribution is less, you get boas that look like a lot of different variations, and this one to me just stood out as maybe showing off those Fudo genes a little bit better. Let me know if you agree or disagree if you're familiar with the Fudo animals. But female's doing real well. She's eating large jumbo mice and small rats. And I still have her in a rack system in a 28 quart tub. She'll probably move up to a larger enclosure in the not too distant future. Starting to show that more muscular form, but still kind of has the baby body shape to her. And it'll be, I don't know, at least probably 4 years before this one is ready. But when she's ready for breeding, she'll be ready. Don't want to push them too fast. Last year, 2022, was my most successful year yet, with 4 different Suriname litters born. And I actually only kept holdbacks from one of the litters. That was a litter that the mother was a animal that I got from Russell LaFleur, a different bloodline from any of my other boas. And she has the distinction of being quite small. She's only about 4.5 feet or so, and she's 8 years old. So maybe kind of a dwarfish boa, and I figured that if I breed this animal, that the babies are probably not going to be all that big. And this was my litter 3 from 2022. And I actually decided to hold back a pair of these animals. This is the male. Just really love the look of this guy, the peaky saddles, and the color. Just a nice looking boa overall. So this guy is now close to 1.5 years old. And you might think, well, he looks kind of small. And yeah, he still is pretty small. As I mentioned, the Surinames often will only put on a few inches their first year. But he's right where he needs to be. His mother stayed this size for probably 3 years. She was just so small, and for a while I was giving her more food, even weekly feedings. She started to get a little pudgy. And she didn't grow longer any faster. So some animals are just genetically not destined to be really big boas. So we'll have to see if this project, if it does go, yield a dwarf-ish Suriname. But maybe in the few years from now we'll have the next generation to look at. I actually have some siblings of this male still available, my 2022 litter number 3. And it's a cool project if you're looking for a Suriname that's not going to get real big at all. Maybe it's going to top out at 5, maybe 6 feet tops. But you can see the available babies at my Flickr page. The link is below the video description. Shoot me an email if you have any questions. Which brings us to 2023. And I had 2 litters of Surinames in 2023. The second litter is quite possibly my nicest Suriname litter that I've ever produced. It was actually a cross of probably my nicest Picasso bloodline male and my nicest Picasso, or my Prometheus bloodline male and my nicest Picasso bloodline female. And the babies were just stunning. And one in particular, this one just really, really stood out. This one just has these perfectly shaped saddles, this beautiful color, this really long red tail. This one has the potential just to be a total stunning boa. And when I went into the breeding season, I thought I probably wasn't going to hold back any more Surinames since I have so many of them. In fact, I would say that by sheer number, Surinames are probably 20 or 30% of my entire collection at this point. But these animals were just so nice, and they were just such the culmination of so many years of work. I just had to keep a few. And this female was definitely one that I wanted to keep. And there's actually still a few siblings available from this one, from the 2023 litter number 2, also on my Flickr page. But you can go check those out if you're interested. If you want a really, really nice boa, this is the litter for you. And I'll have to follow this animal on the channel. I'll show you guys her periodically as she grows bigger. And she should become even more stunning in the future. You can see this is a boa that's now, about 4 months old, 5 months old. Still quite small. These Surinames are not really all that big when they're born compared to some other red tails like the Peruvians, and in general they grow a little slower. So your boa is not going to be really giant, your red tail boa at least, the first year when you get it from me. I hope you guys enjoyed looking at these Surinames. As always, shoot me any questions or comments you might have. Thanks for watching and enjoy your boas.